Morning! I'm going to get the van back in this lovely weather. Success! Oz, we got it back. We got it back. Now to the workshop. Hello. It wasn't quite straight back to the workshop. Yesterday was a bit of a write-off. I got the van in the morning, felt absolutely terrible, as you can tell, probably by my eyes. So I gave myself the day off, joys of working for yourself. But now we are back in the workshop. I should probably explain a little bit about myself. This is a brand new video on a brand new channel. My name is James from James Fisher Builds. I am a joiner based in the Somerset countryside. This is where my workshop is. Most of my work happens here before going on to install at the customer's house for a couple of days at the end of a job. I've just moved into this new workshop after working out of my single garage for the first few years, which was limiting. So having all of this space is pretty cool, and this is only the front of it. It goes back over that way, probably 3 times as big. And I wanted to start this channel kind of coinciding with this new workshop to bring you guys along and see what happens. Another thing to explain, I don't know if you can tell by my eyes, they look terrible. I've not been feeling great recently. I've had a slipped disc that's gone back about a year. I just know for the last little while I've not been able to train or play football or do any of those cool things that I love to do, and the last few nights particularly have been pretty rough. Last night was a little bit better, but the night before I had barely any sleep at all. I kept the dog awake, I kept my partner awake, they weren't happy with me, and now I'm starting to feel a little bit more human again, but my eyes deceive me somewhat. So today, as you can see behind me, I've got a few doors that have been prepped over the last week or so. I've got some floating shelves here. I need to do some testing with these. I picked up some more hinges this morning on the way in. So we've got these. We're going to test fit the doors on the units, which are over here, hiding. Take you around the other side because you probably can't see very well. Couple of units there. These are alcove units. Alcove storage is quite a big, popular job that people want doing, kind of otherwise wasted space. So these units will sit in the bottom of the alcove, cupboard wise, and then there'll be the floating shelves above it. So what we're going to be doing today is probably not a lot. As I say, this week's been a bit up and down. I've not really got going. It's Wednesday today. Our dog walker's away. The van's been in the garage. I've not been feeling great. So I've not really been able to get going and pick up any rhythm. I need to shoot back in a couple of hours because the dog's got the vets this afternoon, so that's another thing. But what we're going to try and do is sort these doors out, get them on and see how they're sitting and lining up. These shelves, these floating shelves, they're going to have LED strip lights underneath. So the electricians are should be going onto the site this week before I get back in there and pulling all the cables through the walls. So my job with these floating shelves, before I install them, I need to route out some channels in the underside for their LED strip lights to sit in. So that's my job. And then when the electricians come back to second fix it, they can put their LEDs, they have somewhere for them to go. Also, it is February and it's quite cold, which is why I've got all of these layers on, and I haven't trained in a while, but I do look a little bit bigger than normal. You can see it's 8 degrees. Definitely feels colder than 8 degrees in this workshop. You can probably take off 2 or 3 degrees from whatever it says up there. That's what I say. So let's get going. This bit I always struggle with, working by myself, especially with a slipped disc. Good. This one, we're going to have a set of double doors here, which so these doors here, and then in this side, this will be, because in the chimney breast, the client has a log burner. So here is going to be for stacking logs. So nice big unit, that's about just under 800 high. That is, so plenty of logs in there, and I've kept the back open for some ventilation, so the logs, if you have anything damp in there, it's going to circulate. This is all moisture resistant MDF. Once it's in, always recommend that the customer primes it and paints it with appropriate paint. That is something I can do if people want me to in the workshop. It's always much easier to paint when all of these component panels are still individual panels, because there's no cutting in, you don't have to mask anything up on the property. If you're getting a sprayer in or a painter, there's so much more prep work that goes into having to paint it once it's all built and in situ. Whereas in the workshop, if these panels are just all cut to size, they can be laid out on the bench, primed, painted, and then put on the drying racks, which are... we have drying racks in here. So there's a panel up there now, which is just a small job that I've been meaning to get back to the customer, but the van's been broken, so I couldn't deliver it. But yeah, these racks are awesome for prepping panels, painting them, getting them in here, away from all the dust in the main workshop, and letting them dry properly in here. But for now, we're going to get the holes, the hinge holes, into the sides of here. So we'll have a hinge here, one here, one here, one here, as you can see on the doors. I've already drilled the hinge pockets to take the hinge cups. Now it's just a case of drilling the holes on here to take the hinge plate. So let's do that. So the way I do my hinges, I've already obviously drilled the hinge cups and I know my dimensions from that. So it's from the top of the door, it's 100mm down for the first hinge cup, centers, and then 600mm down from the top of the door for the second hinge. That will change obviously depending on the size of the door. So what I do, because I know I want a 3mm gap between the top of the door and the actual top of the unit itself, I'll just take my dimension and add 3mm. So top hinge was 100mm down, so on here I'm going to mark 103, and the second hinge down was 600, so on here I'm going to mark 603. I'll bring you, put the pencil down, I'll bring you in here so you can see from the top, 103.5, I think we can get away with that, the adjustment on the hinges, and then 603 at the bottom, and that will give us our 3mm gap between the top of the door and the worktop all along there. From the mark I've just made, I'll get my square and square that across on the centre line. Same with the bottom one. Square that across, doesn't matter how big, it's only pencil, it's going to be painted over. And then to get your hole centers for the actual hinge plate, I use this jig. Super tough, I've had it for ages. It's only a cheaper one off Amazon, maybe £10–15, something like that. Have a bunch of different dimensions depending on the type of hinge you're using, if it's overlay, half overlay or inset. We want the 37mm back, so these first holes, these ones here, this and here. So what I do, it's got this V at the end, which you line up with your centre mark. So we're on there. So the centre of this is 103mm down from the top, and then a couple of pencil lines. Make sure you can see them. I'll show you. You can just about see the holes there that need to be drilled. And then we do the same for the bottom, get our jig on, line it up with the centre line, pencil in, make sure you've got nice and fine pencil so you can get right in there. We've got some extra holes. Now I use a 5mm drill bit in just a combination drill. What I normally do, and in fact I will do on this side doesn't matter so much if I go through, because it's going to have a scribe piece that sits on these blocks. In fact, let me find it for you. Don't know if you can read that. Left-hand alcove, scribe block. Left-hand alcove, left-hand scribe block. So this needs to be somewhere like that. It's just proud 2mm. Not going to stay there, is it? That's on an angle, so it's exaggerated. But these blocks, I'll show you on here, you might be able to see a little bit better. What you'll find is when the door is on its hinges, right up against the side here, that the hinge is going to throw it out just slightly 2mm. If I was to sit this scribe block flush with the corner of this unit. By the time the door went on, the scribe panel would be sat 2mm back, a couple of mil back. So bring these forward a little bit, and then by the time your door is on with a hinge, everything should be nice and flush going across. What I was saying, so it doesn't matter too much if I drill all the way through on this side, because you're never going to see, this will just be a big void between here and the wall. There's a 50mm void, and I always make these 100mm smaller than the alcove itself, so there's room to maneuver in there. So there'll be a 50mm tolerance on each side, which is what this scribe block is for. So if I drill through this side, doesn't matter too much. However, on this side, because there's no door going here, on here I need to be careful. I don't want to come through on this side with the hinge plate that's going to be here. So what I do is just take the drill bit out, get just a little bit of masking tape, line your drill bit up along your carcass edge. This is 18mm, all this 18mm, so you come in about 15mm, and then get some tape on somewhere around there. Double check it's not going to go all the way through. No, that's fine, and that'll be deep enough for your hinge screws. Nice and easy. So what we've got is 2 holes at the top for the hinge plate, 2 holes at the bottom for the bottom hinge plate. Now I will try and find a hinge somewhere. So here we go. This is our hinge plate, and that will sit so that you can see the hinge screws, bolts. They're kind of more like bolts because they're quite chunky. So that now lines up perfectly, it says, with that. So that's, those two have found those holes, and they just need driving in, obviously, with a driver. However, what I prefer to do, rather than screwing these straight on here, then putting these on the doors, then having to clip them all in, what I do is always attach the plate onto the hinge arm cup. Same with the other one. So that's one whole unit, and then I'll screw these onto the door. So grab our doors. I also like to, now well you can see that, just mark the doors which is which. Sometimes you might have a defect in a panel where it's just, there might be a small mark or something that you might want to hide underneath. These are pretty good, but another reason might be sometimes, so your stiles and your rails, sometimes I put a bigger rail on, a chunkier rail. These are all 70mm, 70. Sometimes if it's a big door, so in terms of perspective, you want your bottom rail to be a bit higher. So obviously it does matter which way. If you put it that way, it's going to be upside down, which is why I mark it on sometimes. So we've got our door, we've got our hinges that we've just clipped together, and now they're ready to be screwed in. So we'll change the battery over, the driver. I have so many batteries, but I always end up swapping the same one out because I'm silly. These hinges do come with screws. They're okay. They're not the best, but get away with them. Hinge into the hinge cut. What I like to do as well, if the hinge is close enough to the edge, use a square to square it up, so you know that when it comes to hanging it, you're not gonna have many issues. So center that screw, drive that home. Another one, get the point in the center. Hinge done. Same on the other side. Hinge in, square it up. Screws. Screw that in. You don't want to overdo these, because if you went full whack on those and just kept spinning them, they're going to lose their bite. So just go gently and they'll stay nice and tight. So there we are, door with the hinges already on and the holes in the side, ready to take the door. So we'll stand that up. It might be a bit tight in the bottom because under here, on site, it will have a 60mm frame, base frame that sits underneath, which is just that down there. I've not lifted that up because I'm being lazy. So the door at the moment, it might catch on the bench top. So we'll see. But we're gonna line that up. So you see we've got a nice gap at the top, 3mm gap at the top, which allows adjustment in the door, although it is moisture resistant MDF, which should really limit the amount of moisture obviously that gets into it. MDF might, well, it will swell over time. 5-10 years, it's going to go from an 18 mil to maybe a 19.5 mil, depending on how humid the site is or the room, especially in the bathroom. That's going to happen. It's going in the living room, so we're fine. I'm rambling, but I'll always leave a gap, is what I'm saying. Especially when it comes to paint, you might think it's not going to add too much, but a couple of coats of primer and some top coat, you might add a mil or a mil and a half, and you still want that clearance. So 3 mil all the way around is pretty typical practice for the door. So here we go, get that crap out, line it up, just start them off, locate at least one on each hinge, but don't drive it all the way home, just do it halfway. Get your bottom one in, make sure it's located, same with that, and then you can drive them home. Same on the bottom. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's fouling on the bottom at the moment. I'll just tip that back a little bit. There we go, got a bit of swing, so there we go. And they are soft close, which you can't quite see at the moment. We have one door on. So there'll be another door here, and then this is going to be left open to stack the logs. There we go, that's one door on. And these are proper tongue and groove shaker doors. You can see along the top. So 18 mil door with a 6 mil panel in the center. And we'll do the same for this side now. In fact, I'm going to take this door off so I don't knacker the bottom. An easy way to do that, they do have, I can get you in there, they do have these little clips. So if you unclip that and unclip that, the door, voila, just comes away from the unit. Same for the other side then, so 103 down, 603 down, square them over, grab our hinge plate jig. This is the best thing, one of the best things I've bought in terms of anything that is like a jig that's going to save you time and effort is awesome. I used to have to mark them down, square it across, get your tape in there, mark 16 mil either side because they're 32 mil centers, trying to get in tight spaces or awkward gaps, like, you know, and you're under here and you're trying to see if you're in a house and the light's not ideal. So getting that jig, getting it on. You probably can't see from where you're watching, but trust me, I'm doing it. Getting your holes on, done. Save yourself a few minutes dicking around. And then drill those. Line your bit up with your hole. Obviously this is the important side where we don't want to be going through all the way, so this is where this bit of tape is going to be super handy. Same for the bottom. I don't know if you can quite see on here, on this jig, there you go. You do have oval holes, so when you're drawing your hole in there, you just have to aim your bit, obviously, for the centre. First. Get rid of all this. Yeah, that's the right door. Same thing. Get one in at the top and just one in at the bottom. Second one in. Drive the bad boys home. Lovely. What I've actually done now is brought the base frame up here. So we've got our door and got a soft close hinge. very soft close hinge. You'll see what I mean about the 2mm gap. If we look here, just a little bit of a gap between the door and the edge of the carcass. Get another one on, or a first one I should say. Now obviously because I've unclipped this, I'm just going to clip it back on. So you line your teeth up into the edge of the hinge and press it and click it. Top one, press it, click it. But that's the door on. Done the sizes right, let's see. Nice. And then we've got our gap. Bit of adjustment at the top there, so I'll just bring this door up depending how the hinge came out of the factory. You do have adjusting pins here, so this one goes up and down, this one goes in and out, and this one brings the arm of the hinge forwards or backwards. So we can fine tune it. I'll probably do that on site, to be honest. Once everything's in, there's no major need to do it all now, but as you can see, 2 doors on. But yes, that's kind of me done for the day, even though it's only not even 1:30 yet. I need to go home, take the dog around the block for the vets and take him up there. And by the time he's done up there, there's probably be no point in me coming back to the workshop. So I might sit down and start editing this first video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've quite enjoyed filming again. It's been quite fun. Works take a little bit longer, but I'm sure I'll get used to that. I don't know when I'm going to put it on YouTube. But anyway, it's fun for me. I like sitting down and editing, and this is my business. So either way, I'm making money with it. So yeah, thanks for joining me. And I'll see you next time for some more wood. Bye.